Has slowed down his roll to the nomination with a raucous audience of 3,000 Republicans cheering and jeering. They attacked last night in Myrtle Beach.
There was a pattern in some companies, a handful of them, of leaving them with enormous debt and then within a year or two or three having them go broke.
Georgetown, South Carolina, it was one of those towns where there was a steel mill that Bain swept in. They picked that company over, and there were a lot of people lost jobs.
If I had something in the super PAC that was supporting me that was inaccurate, I would go out and say, stop it.
Let's bring in our Super Tuesday panel. Jeff Johnson is a contributor to MSNBC and thegrio.com. Anna Fifield is correspondent for the Financial Times. And David Drucker is a reporter from Roll Call, who roams the hills of Capitol Hill next to me in those media scrums. Good to see you here. A little nicer.
Good to see you, Luke. Yeah, it's comfortable here. I don't have to stand as much.
Indeed. One thing I want to talk about, it seems this culture of inevitability has sort of come up around Mitt Romney. And on the issue of health care, which has been very tough for him as Republican primary voters, some new interesting poll numbers out today. I want to take a look at this. In January, only 38% said the Massachusetts health care plan was a major reason to oppose Romney. Now its numbers at 55%, meaning that more folks view him as being okay from the issue. I should have stated that more clearly. Does this sort of show that Mitt Romney seems to be running away with this, David? If health care now over half say it's not nearly as bad as it once was?
Well, let's wait for Saturday and see what he's running away with. I think, the major difference here is he's actually won a few elections. We might dispute what happened in Iowa, but even if he finished a short second, he did a lot better than people thought. He did really well in New Hampshire, and it always influences voters going forward when they see somebody winning elections. And I think if you're Mitt Romney, you'd much rather be battling South Carolina over your business record, which he is, than over health care. And I think part of the reason we're at this stage with the health care subject is everybody knew all about Mitt Romney's health care record. It wasn't like you were going to shock voters into explaining to them, oh my God, did you know that he had an individual mandate in his state health care plan? It was something a lot of people factored in. He's always handled it well by saying he wants to repeal the president's health care law, and that's why I don't think it's been as big of an issue. And I think, in fact, the only reason Republicans in South Carolina are going after him on the Bain issue and his business record is because nothing else has worked so far.
As in Financial Times, the only thing to hit is Bain. It's the only thing sticking. Can anyone get traction in any other way?
Well, Bain is the only thing that's sticking, and I think the really interesting numbers out of these polls show us that it's not really hurting Romney as much as we might have thought. The latest polls show that he still has a double-digit lead in terms of the economy and his handling of the economy. So Romney seems to be pulling ahead regardless and being the inevitable nominee, like you say. The interesting thing about health care, I think, is that when this comes before the Supreme Court over the next few months, this issue is going to rear its head again. This is probably bad for Obama as well as bad for Romney, so we haven't seen the end of this for sure.
No, Romney unstoppable?
No, unstoppable, I don't know, but nearly. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the one question even that really seemed to come out of last night was more about his personal finances than either Bain. When was he going to release his taxes? How was he going to be? When was he going to have full disclosure? Was he really going to wait until April? I think that is really going to be a sticking point for a lot of his opponents as they begin to continue to attack.
And that's the one thing that kind of stuck out to me, is that Romney has been cautious in these debates, but especially last night, to use a football analogy, he really only rushed three guys. Everyone was back trying to avoid giving up the big score, trying to look bad. Was that exchange about him not showing his income tax returns, you think that'll creep back up? I mean, he seemed to be very tepid, didn't give a straight answer. Essentially, he said that he will do it in April. Will that be an issue till then?
I think it gives the other folks on the slate room for a place to attack, and pushing him to do it before April, pushing him to do it in a case where it could hurt him more than help him in the long term. So I think it's a small thing, but at the end of the day, I think those folks that are going against him at this point are looking for every single opportunity that they can find.
He did get asked about that comment he made on the 08 campaign, which was in regards to hunting varmints. Let's take a look at that exchange last night.
I'm not going to describe all of my great exploits, but I went moose hunting, actually, not moose hunting, I'm sorry, elk hunting with friends in Montana, been pheasant hunting. I'm not the great hunter that some on this stage probably do. Rick Perry, my guess is you're a serious hunter. I'm not a serious hunter, but
You see, he kind of is uncomfortable there. He's not very part of his own skin. Is that the sort of types of bites that folks like Axelrod and Plouffe are going to look at to try and sort of make up this image of Mitt Romney as just not being very relatable, David?
Well, I think they will, but they're going to need to do it on the subjects that matter. I don't think gun control and the Second Amendment are big issues in this race, given where we've come on the subject over the last 10 to 15 years. In South Carolina, most people are concerned about jobs and the economy, not social issues, not gun issues. But clearly, when Mitt Romney is vulnerable, when he falters, it's an issue of credibility and authenticity and whether or not he is comfortable. And so clearly, that's what the Obama campaign will try and do to him if he's the nominee. That's what his Republican opponents are trying to do to him in their sort of last gasp effort to try and overcome him as the front runner. I don't think last night they were able to get him enough on subjects that matter. I thought much more that they would go after him on the issue of conservative authenticity and consistency that they hit him on in the NBC debate the Sunday before New Hampshire. It really could work to devastating effect.
There's still a lot of infighting with each other aside from Romney.
If it gained traction.
We'll get back to that when we take a quick break.